Hi, I'm Sarah Lund. I'm here today to interview John Stefonik. Today's July 13th, 2023. John.
And my name is John Stefonik, and it still is July 13th, 2023. And one of I received an email with questions about, so let me just go through some of those. The first question in there was, when did you first come to UCC? And as I was explaining to you, that would be 1969. And I was attending the Air Force Academy, and chapel was mandatory. So either at the academy or someplace downtown. And we did have somebody at the academy that was providing transportation. So I don't know if anybody here was here back then, but Dean Kinder, may he rest in peace, was another cadet that attended First Congregational. The minister at that time was Doug Wasson, and he made a point to reach out to the Air Force Academy and make it available to the people at the academy. There were no ladies back then. It was only boys. I think it was a year or two after I graduated that women were incorporated into the wing.
Wow.
So we came to Congregational Church, and there were several families that supported us at that time, had us out to dinner, over for lunch. If there wasn't transportation, they would provide the transportation. And as part of that, I met my future wife, Lynne Murray.
Wow.
Lynne Murray's parents, anybody watching this that's part of the church and has been here for a while, probably knows Bob Murray and Marge Murray. Marge Murray is only 95, and she still attends regularly. As far as events at the church, maybe my most important event was getting married to Lynne here August 2nd, in 1975. So you can do the math.
Yeah.
That was a while ago. We've been blessed with 2 children, Anne and Karen. Anne lives here, and she has 2 grandchildren. By the way, I dropped off our granddaughter at zoo camp 45 minutes ago, and then I have to pick her up a little bit later.
Okay.
And her other child is Johnny, and I'm guessing that you've met them.
Yeah, I have. They're
They've
great.
been here as part of that.
Yeah.
So we were married
Wow.
in the church in 1975, and that was maybe the most important event. Some of the ministers that I remember, Doug Wasson was the first minister. Marge, Lynn's mom, would probably tell you of Joe Carroll, and that goes back even further. They moved here in the early 50s and started attending the church. You might remember, if you were here, that the atrium was blocked in. There was nothing, as we have right now, for openness. It was a small chapel. That was a fairly major event in the church. And then later on, we added the elevator and the rooms in the back. Let's see. A new Congregational church opened up in Vista Grande, and we attended that church for a little while, and then we came back to First Congregational Church. We were married. Doug, as I recall, baptized Anne, and I think Benjamin baptized Karen. Our other daughter, Karen, lives in Texas with her husband, Brian, and we have 2 other grandchildren there. Now, things of importance, the ministers that I recall are, first of all, Doug Wasson, as I've said, and then Jerry Jordan, and some other folks in this room may remember Jerry Jordan, and he is still a member of the church, an active member, and his wife, Gail, may she rest in peace, is an angel. I mean, literally she is an angel, and all the time that I knew her, she was too. She helped me teach Godly Play.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
familiar with that?
Yeah.
And Marge and I taught preschool. This is probably back when I was a cadet, so 69 through 73. We would teach Sunday school, likely in this room that we're in right now. And it was not quite in the same condition. It was things have been improved much in this area. Jerry Jordan was here for 19 years, maybe. And then the follow-on, some of this room may remember Dr. James White. Jim is a very close and dear friend. Jim taught me to fly fish. And Jim's approach to things is just a little bit different than mine. Given that I started at the academy, I then went on to pilot training and spent a long time in the military. And this is during the Vietnam era and then during the Desert Storm era. And some of the preaching, I would have to go up to Jim and say, Jim, let's go out for lunch and let's talk a little bit about the military. And so we did that, and I hope he imparted into me some of his feelings and I imparted into him some of my feelings and my understanding of why there is a military. Following Jim, as an overlap, was Benjamin Broadbent. I'm guessing everybody remembers Benjamin. He was a spark for the church. I'm thinking, and you'll have to check me on this on my facts, that the largest number of people were members during the time that Benjamin was here. His lovely wife, Brooke, and their two children were born. Marin and Sophia were born while he was here. Oh, a step back to Jim. Jim met Patty White, and most folks in this room know Patty White, and they were married in the church not too long after that. That was a very joyous time. I remember Jim's retirement. That was a fun event, and we go fishing occasionally from that point on. Benjamin moved on. I think part of what he wanted to do was to go back to California, and did, and he is now the lead minister, I think it's Sevastopol, and we have some communication with him every now and again. Following Benjamin was one of my favorites, Nayiri Karjan, who brought a perspective that hadn't been part of this church for a very long time. Her ministry, her sermons, you had to listen to every word. She was an amazing woman. She was the interim minister. And then we moved on to
was Heather after that?
Heather came and spent some time with us, and then moved on. And then we hired the lead minister now, Leanne. I was fortunate enough to be part of the search committee that called her. If you've never been part of a search committee, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, but we came up with a fine woman and a solid preacher. So that's interesting. And very heartening for me. I hope it is for all of you that were not part of the committee. I'm also part of the safety committee for the church. Last Sunday, any of you that were here participated, I know Royce was, participated in our first evacuation. We have not had a safety protocol for a long, long time that we put into action. You were at that meeting, and so we've been taking some baby steps towards addressing the fact that we are a downtown church, and there are lots of people in downtown Colorado Springs of varying backgrounds and, shall we say, mental stability. So how to deal with that, and we've been having I think, some success with that because we did have an evacuation. I'm also the chair of the Risk Reduction Committee. Now, risk reduction is directly associated with what Sarah does, and that is to minimize the chances for an event. An event would be something inappropriate happening with children, with at-risk adults, and with youth. We try to emphasize the responsibility of the church, of the members, of the people that are associating with these at-risk people. We have a small group in that on that committee, and we're always looking for one or two more. I can't think of a faster way to put Colorado us on the front page of the Gazette, our local publication, if there was an incident. Yeah. So we, and we will put an emphasis on that and try to get that information out to everyone. I've been a teacher in godly play. I think we had, you could go there as a 3-year-old, up to probably 4 or 5, something like that. That was always a lot of fun, because if you can imagine a barrel, it's full of water, and it's full of corks, and the idea is for you with your 2 hands to keep all those corks under the water. That's kind of the approach that we had with godly play, and it's just heartening to see those children grow up now. The people that I've taught in Sunday school are now graduating from college and having their own families. So it's really a big part of this. Excuse me. I need to talk just a little bit about Lynne. Lynne, my wife, has been a member of First Congregational Church since the 1950s. She was baptized here. Both her parents, Marge and Bob, I already mentioned, were members all the time they were here. And this church is part of her soul, I have to tell you. It is important for her that this idea and these people continue. She has done almost everything in the church. She's been a member of council. She has taught. She is the chair of the JWW. It's not right to use acronyms, but it's the James Weldon White lecture series. And I'd like to brag on her a little bit, revive that to a situation this year where we broke even. Just about. So she has done, she was the treasurer, a member of council, has helped with almost everything associated with the church. And again, let me brag on her a little bit, because this is an important part of her life. Her mom, Marge, I've already mentioned, same thing. She comes here and thinks about all the times that we've had in this church. Let's see. One of the questions was, what would you say to the next generation? What would you say to Sarah, for instance? Well, I would say that this is an idea, and this idea needs a fair amount of care and feeding, because it's a fragile idea. We are an anomaly in Colorado Springs. We carry a torch that nobody else carries. And it's an idea that we can govern ourselves. The hierarchy in this church starts with you and me, and then it moves upwards or downwards, if you want to, through council to the lead minister. I can't think of another church on Tejon, and there are plenty within just a short walking distance, that don't have that hierarchy. The decision making is vested in you and me. If that's important to you, then this idea needs to continue. And if it's not important to you and you don't understand that, then we can certainly talk to you about it a little bit. But it is a unique structure in churches. If you look at numbers, the Catholic Church probably has about 90 million members nationwide.
Wow.
And of course, worldwide, it's more like 1 billion. Baptist Church is in the 80 millions. First Congregational Church, the Congregational Church is 1 million. So that is just a drop in the bucket. But it is an idea that is very much different than most of the churches in town.
Right.
The decision making is vested in you and me, and it is put into play through the council and through the lead minister.
Wow.
So, what do you think?
Yeah,
Is that enough?
I think that's great.
Okay, do you have any other questions?
I have a lot of questions. So you already told me about when and why you became a member of the church, and then who was the minister. Do you have any memories, like first memories, that first year that you attended First Congregational as a cadet? Anything in particular that stands out?
Not really. I felt welcome, though. I grew up in the Congregational Church. I was born and raised in Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And my parents, for reasons unknown, chose the Congregational Church. So when there was an opportunity to come to the Congregational Church in Colorado Springs, that was why I came. And it felt basically the same. It felt very comfortable.
Right, like home, I'm sure.
Yes.
Can you share a memory from your time spent with any team or committee here?
The most recent committee was the search committee, and well, let me just say the search committee, the risk reduction committee, the safety committee, the people are qualified, they are passionate, they are compassionate, and they have they don't have an ulterior motive. Their motives, from my humble viewpoint, is the best interest of the church. The people by the way, we rewrote the bylaws not too long ago. I was on that committee as well, and I'm very much impressed with the level of commitment of all the people on the committees that I've been part of. I hope that's the case for all the people on committees here. But I just have to smile thinking about the people I worked with in children's education. They're really good people that really want to do the right thing for the youth of the church.
Thank you. Who do you remember as friends in church over the years?
You know, I read that, and the only person that I can think of right now, well, there are a couple of folks. First of all, Ted Lindeman.
Yeah.
Most of the folks in this room know Ted, and he started. I think he was at the church going to CC when I came to the church, so we are about the same vintage. As far as friends, Jim White comes to my mind. We've done several things together, most of it fly fishing. Paul McNeil is the vice moderator, was the vice moderator.
Yeah.
Paul, same thing, is very much committed to the welfare of this church.
Yeah. What do you value most about this church and community?
The thing that I value the most is that when you come to the First Congregational Church, well, let's step back. When you go to most churches in town, they are going to tell you what to think. When you come to First Congregational Church, we just ask you to think. I facilitated a Bible study, What Would Jesus Brew, about 4 or 5 years ago before COVID. And it was really fun to sit down and read the Bible and then ask for an interpretation. And not just the lectionary, which is what we used, but also to read the paragraph before, the paragraph after, and say, how does this affect you? What do you think? And those were good times. We would sit together and talk, and the only thing that we would say was, if you think that because I believe this way I'm going to go to hell, pardon me, then you can't be part of this group. This group is open to ideas, and I believe that this church is the same thing. You can go to churches up and down Tejon, throughout Colorado Springs, and they will tell you what to think. Here, you need to sit down and do the hard work that Kierkegaard set forth when he said, being a Christian is not an easy task.
Love that. So, share with us a favorite memory of First Congregational Church.
My favorite memory is Lynne and I being married here in 1975 on August 2nd. That was a glorious time. Unfortunately, I was stationed in South Dakota at the time, and I showed up the night before, and Lynne did all the work.
Wow.
And that's going to be a theme throughout my time in the Air Force, and then my time at the airline. Lynne doing most of the heavy lifting with the church and with our daughters, and now with our grandchildren. So that was a wonderful memory, is our being married and here in the church. And then I think Benjamin baptized at least one of our grandchildren that live in Texas. And there is something spiritual, I guess this is the place to be spiritual, about a baptism. Yeah. Something very, very dear.
Yeah. That's great. What advice do you give to the congregation as we move forward to the next 150 years?
I read that, and to me, maybe the most important piece of advice is, this is a very fragile situation. It requires constant care and feeding. It requires looking forward, and I'm thinking about the budget. Aspirational budgeting has been a challenge for us in the past and got us in some situations that I personally would question. So we need realistic approaches to what we have and where we're going. And the fact that this is an idea, it's not this building, but it's that idea that I told you about, is we can govern as a group, and we can come to conclusions, and we can move forward using Christ as an example, using the Bible as the literature that we can go to, supporting one another. When we were standing up last week and we were talking about safety, what I would have said is, I want everybody to stand up, because we are all the safety committee. We are in this together. Right. There is very little I in this church. If there is, we're doomed.
Right. Yeah. Any other specific memories that you have from First Congregational Church that you'd like to share?
Not really. No, I've talked long enough.
You've been you've been here for such a long time and had so many life experiences throughout growing up here. Really, it's to hear.
Again, you won't find this. I've gone to other churches. I've talked to other people, and the first thing they say is it's not inclusive, it's exclusive. Right. Are you this, this, and this? Well, if no, then you can't be part of our group. It's not been our experience here. Now, let me say that I have a little bit of a problem with someone standing in front of all of us and saying anybody can come in and do anything. We choose everyone.
Yeah.
If you are part of our group, you need to follow some basic rules.
For sure.
If somebody's talking, maybe it's time for you to listen. And if you want to do things on the outside of the church when there are many people on the inside. Oh, by the way, I help with the Atrium. I'm an Atrium greeter as part of the safety committee. And we have friends that come in. And to date, things have been pretty good. However, we recently had an incident. And so, although you're welcome, you need to follow some basic rules. Respect.
Right. You're here as a privilege.
You respect me, I respect you, and it's gonna work out just fine.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Thank you so much, John.
Thank
I
you,
really
Sarah.
appreciate letting me interview you here.
Okay. Anybody else have a question?
Anything else that?
Laura? Royce? My gosh.
Don't think so.
No. Paul? I can't see you, Paul.
Yeah.
Anything from Paul? I can see a hand. Oh, by the way, let me say a big thank you to Mr. Paul Swetzer. He is behind the scenes and has made so many things happen. The audiovisual moving into the 21st and 22nd century is absolutely critical. We need to do that. And Laura in the back, being a member of council, stepping forward, that is not an easy job. Royce documenting all the things that we do with his talents and in the visual. So Owen, let's not forget Paul's gift of music. He is just a pleasure to sit and listen. At one point in my life, I played the guitar, but now I would much rather sit and listen to Paul play the guitar. So I do thank you for putting this together. All the efforts of everybody in this room. I received an award not too long ago, and I had to give a little bit of a speech. And I said, Lynne, what should I say? And she said, why don't you say thank you? And there is a tremendous power in thank you. If you can look someone in the eye and give them a heartfelt thank you, because it's a lost art. Not many people do it. Thanks just becomes but if you can touch their soul with a thank you. So let me do that to each of the people in here to be active in this church, this idea. So I'm sorry, but I got to scoot.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. Thanks for being here.